What's up, levelers? Welcome back to another episode of High Level Chronicles. Get ready to light up your favorite strain, grab your headphones, get ready for a mind-altering journey this week. We are diving into the world of psychedelics, exploring the history, use, research, everything in between. From the humble mushrooms to the infamous LSD, we'll be uncovering the fascinating story of these mind-bending substances that have captivated and challenged us for centuries. But before we embark on this trip, let's hear what's been leveling you up this week. Head over highlevelchronicles.com or hit us up on social media at LC Podcast 420 to share what games you've been conquering, what shows you've been watching, and of course, what strains you've been enjoying while you're doing it. Did that new batch of Blue Dream take you on a cerebral adventure, maybe? Or maybe some Skywalker OG is helping you explore the depths of Red Dead Redemption 2? Whatever it is, share your experiences with the High Level community. Some of our listeners right now at Anonymizer58 says, I leveled up on some OG Kush while playing some Borderlands. And another one here at Jessica R says, I binged Gen V while dabbing on some do-si-dos. Great time. Well, it seems like everyone's been on their own unique journey this week. We've got reports of epic battles on Borderlands and some superhero watching on Gen V. If you don't know what Gen V is, that is the spinoff of The Boys on Amazon Prime. The Boys is awesome. So sounds like a diverse and enriching week for our levelers out there. As far as me, pretty much the same old grind and green routine. I mean, I'm leveling up on some honey gelato. And actually, man, this week, I think I told you, Blood Hunt. Blood Hunt had an issue for me that it wasn't letting me log in. It was actually an outage with their server, I found out. Half the players could get on, half the players couldn't. So it actually lasted. I just got back to Blood Hunt yesterday. Just was able to get online. But in the meantime, I actually started playing Overwatch 2 again. And bro, I'm hooked again. I'm hooked. Like, it's been fucking a blast just grinding it out.
It's a great game.
What I'm upset about right now is I can't figure out how to get my competitive, the competitive mode to unlock. It just keeps saying you haven't completed the competitive challenge, but I don't know what the challenge is, so I can't really,
I can't remember what it is, honestly. It's been so long.
But what about you, man? What have you been up to?
I've actually, this may sound a little dorky, but a new set of Pokemon cards released today, actually. So I've been super hyped for that. It's a Japanese set that they are turned American, and they combine two sets into one. So I'll actually be able to read my cards now.
So are you a card collector of sorts for those?
Yes.
So what's the one that Logan Paul wore to WrestleMania around his fucking neck?
The freaking Pikachu trainer.
Is that
it was either the Pikachu trainer or the Charizard. I can't remember which one it was.
No, it was a Charizard. I remember the name now. It was a Charizard. Yeah, but what is the relevance of that? Like, is that limited?
That's a first edition, first base set Charizard, and there's only a handful of them left in the world that are like mint 10 condition. And at a mint 10 condition, those things are worth tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I was listening to him on a podcast about I don't remember what it was about, but he was on there and he was talking about it came up somehow, and he said that originally he was talking with the guy that had two of them, and I guess is there different tiers or something in the way. Well, I guess the one that he went to get was like the highest of highest, and he ended up not being able. The guy wouldn't end up selling it to him, so he sold him the next one down, which is what he has. And so I don't know what he was after, but what else you been doing? Anything else?
I got some new dabs this week. Some Ray Charles from
Ray Charles.
It's a super heavy indica.
I was about to say, that like make you not see, go to sleep, close your eyes.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking when I hear Ray Charles.
There's some diamonds in sauce, so it's a nice little treat for myself.
Nice. Well, let's get into today's trip, both literally and figuratively. Psychedelics, from mushrooms to LSD. Like I said, we're going to dive into some history, use, legalization, whatever whatever happens, whatever comes out. We're going to hopefully do another episode on this at a later date with some mycologists of sorts, and maybe dig deeper into the mushroom side of it. But today we'll just talk general psychedelics. I mean, it's hard to imagine a more interdisciplinary topic in the realm of drugs than psychedelics. I mean, they have been used over time in many different cultures, right? I mean,
tons of
dating back as far as you can imagine for spiritual, therapeutical, is that even a word? Therapeutic, or recreational use. And let me just ask a question before I was going to ask you, Brian, have you, before we get into this whole, psychedelic thing, have you ever played a video game while on any psychedelics?
I got a funny story. Well, funny to me. I don't know if everybody else is going to find it entertaining. Batman Arkham Asylum.
Okay. I played it, loved it.
Released.
That was a PlayStation.
The entry cutscenes to that. We ended up taking some microdots one night. Went and bought the game, sat down and watched it, and I was like mid-peak watching the entry scenes. I felt like I was in like an action movie myself. I was going crazy. I felt like it was like 3 hours long, even though it was only like 3 minutes. Greatest time of my life.
So I think everybody that knows me knows I play Dead by Daylight and have for years. I still play it to this day. I just love Dead by Daylight. I actually played it one night after eating a polka dot bar. And I say a polka dot bar, this was a legit polka dot bar. I know there's tons of fakes and everybody can get the packaging. You can throw them in there, but there's only one company to get them from if you want them legally. You can't buy them at your local dispensary. You can't buy them anywhere on this. You can only buy them in Bitcoin. Like you can't even buy them in cash, right? So there's only one company that sells them. So I know it was legit shit. It wasn't the synthetic shit that a lot of them put in. So I was going off their dosage, right? They tell you in these little chocolate squares how much, each one is. And it said, 0 to 3 pieces or something like that, elevate the mind or something, right? Actually, fuck this. Hold up.
I got proof.
I got it right here. Let me see what it said. So it's hard to read because this shit is so fucking, it's like holographic, I guess. So it's like hard to actually read the wording on it. But it says, a microdose is what's considered 1 to 3 pieces stimulate the mind, right? Therapeutic dose is 4 to 9 pieces, mindful and elevated, right? And then God mode is 10 to 15 pieces, and it says walls might melt, right? So now,
God mode.
When you take the chocolate bar, I don't know if you've ever had polka dot.
I haven't had one of them, no.
You know what they look like? They just look like a Hershey bar, right? With squares. So about half is about 15 pieces, right? There's about 30 pieces altogether, roughly, I think, somewhere right in there. So Rob was all in or nothing. I ate half of that chocolate bar. And that was like 8 o'clock, right? And I started playing Dead by Daylight. And I must have hit peak. It must have hit me right around 9 o'clock. I remember looking at the time and it was like 8:38. Like it's so vivid. I can remember that one time. Like it was 8:38 p.m. And then all of a sudden I was in the game. Like in the fucking game, bro. Like I'm not talking playing the game. I was part of that game.
Fucking Ready Player One.
Like the experience was fucking amazing. But it's not something I want to do all the time. It's not like it's one of those things like it's a special treat. You know what I mean? Every once in a while, so I don't, plus from everything I read, I'm no expert on we're going to talk just psilocybin, mushrooms, whatever, just for a second here. I'm no expert on what it can or can't do to your body, but I'm assuming I don't want to build tolerance to it. So I like to enjoy it just sparingly and, enjoy it. But just imagine though, like a VR game designed specifically for like a psychedelic experience.
Me up, bro.
Like developers, hey, are you listening? Get on that. And of course, levelers, share your trippiest gaming experiences with us. You all know where to reach us at HLC Podcast 420. I think moving on, do you know the name Michael Pollan?
Yes.
Michael Pollan, he is the author of a book called How to Change Your Mind. Yes. And he also did a Netflix series on said book, How to Change, the same thing. I think he said it best. His quote, and I had to write it down here because it's hard to read.
Episode 2 of How to Change Your Mind. Episode
Episode 2.
7. Episode 2.
Psychedelics, but this whole thing was psychedelics. So psychedelic, his what he said was psychedelics shakes the snow globe in your brain, and when the snow settles, it settles in a very different pattern, which allows you to break your patterns. So when you think of it that way, archaeological evidence suggests the use of psilocybin dates back thousands of years, like we said, with the Mesoamerican civilizations like the Aztecs and the Mayans. They incorporated them into like religious ceremonies and healing rituals, and they still do to this day. You can literally go on a healing trip to Mexico, Costa Rica, anywhere. I've actually looked into it. You can do ayahuasca ceremonies, or is that what ayahuasca? Ayahuasca ceremonies or peyote, different things. There's a bunch of different religious ceremonies being used. The use of substance, like I said, peyote, ayahuasca, magic mushrooms, thousands of years history of use. Rock art depicting like what some believe to be psychedelic experiences even strengthens the connection between like these societies and the mind-altering substances. And we even see the traces of psychedelic use in other parts of the world, from the what is that called? What's that word? The ergot alkaloids found in medieval Europe. So possibly influencing the visions documented during religious experiences, to the sacred, like you said, ayahuasca brew that's used by indigenous tribes in South America. But fast forward to the 20th century, where it's psychedelics like LSD, MDMA, they became the center of scientific exploration, particularly in the field of psychology. Researchers saw, potential in these substances for treating various mental health conditions, right? Including anxiety, depression, even addiction. And did you know that the wave of the big psychedelic research was in like the 50s, which is about a decade after Albert Hofmann, who first discovered psychedelic properties of LSD. That's like a decade after.
Yes.
And then I think you told me this, and this didn't a lot of something back then around that time was going on in Maryland here, right?
Yes, from 1963 to 1977, actually.
Where was that at?
At Spring Grove, yes, here in
the
Maryland.
Spring Grove group, right? And that's what they were doing. It was like they would work with cancer patients and stuff, right?
Albert Kurland, Charles Savage, and Walter Penke.
Was it cancer patients? Is that what I remember of it?
Yep.
But at least what they started with. There might have been more, but I remember
cancer, schizophrenia, and addiction. They were working with all three different kinds of patients.
Yeah, so you're saying, so just like you said, studies explored the use of psychedelics in controlled settings, with showing promising results. But since that was early 60s, like you said, that was what, 63 you said to 77?
Yeah, 63 to 77.
So the late 60s and 70s saw a huge shift in public perception, of all this. So the studies were conducted, like I said, in controlled settings. The psychedelics, though, exploded on the scene, though, like recreationally, though, in like the 60s, right? Yes. And they were associated with some really radical changes and disruptive to society that really scared a lot of people, hence the stigma around them now. But I think now society is more ready to kind of accept these compounds and the whole picture of them. Yeah. So, the whole war on drugs was because war. They vilified it as a way to stop the pushback from getting people to join the war, which was the whole make love, not war thing, right? So it's interfered with the government's agenda, as always. Everything always comes down to the government. It's interfered with the government's agenda at that time, and that's why people still look at them the way they do today. And that was over 50 fucking years ago.
Yeah, so back in the 60s and 70s, possession of LSD was actually considered conspiracy against the government as a charge if you were caught with it.
See, that's
carried a lifetime sentence in prison.
When did the Beatles come out? When were the Beatles around? That was 60s and 70s, right?
60s, yeah. I don't remember exactly what year.
Musicians. Who hasn't heard of musicians taking psychedelics to get some creativity, right? So think about the Beatles. There's the Beatles before LSD, and then there's the Beatles after LSD. Which one do you prefer? Before or after LSD?
Before.
But then came the backlash, like the 70s and 80s, war on drugs criminalized many of the psychedelics and stigmatized their use. It wasn't until, more recent years, I think, that we've seen a resurgence, in the research and interest for their therapeutic uses. But, psychedelics became so associated with counterculture that society was, in a sense, traumatized. It came to a halt back then. I mean, there were researchers that were running sessions and studies and got notices they had to stop.
Abruptly stop too.
Yeah, like no matter where you're at in it, no matter what's going on, you have to stop. And like I said, the counterculture movement, embraced psychedelics, using them not just for therapeutic, but also for exploration and personal growth. Mm-hmm. This coupled with sensationalized media portrayals brought the backlash. There's just been so much going on. That's when back then it was labeled as all psychedelics back then were labeled as a Schedule I drug. They still are.
Yes,
to this day.
They still are. Yep.
So it's important to understand that the Schedule I classification, what it means is it signifies a high potential for abuse with no acceptable medical use.
Yes.
So, but that's not where the story ends, though. See, in 1993, Carrie Mullis won the Nobel Prize. Carrie Mullis won a Nobel Prize in 93 for inventing PCR, which, if you don't know what PCR is, it revolutionized biology. It's if you don't want, it's like what's the word? What is the actual mean? Polymerase chain reaction. It's basically a technique. It's what they use to produce millions to billion copies of your DNA.
Yeah,
that's how they started cloning. So, he did all that, and he said his words. Did an interview. Said if it wasn't for his experience with psychedelics, he would have never figured it out. So, I mean, somebody wins a Nobel Prize, took psychedelics, came up with that. So
I think I'd agree with him.
We're talking about something that changed history because of psychedelics, but yet it's still a Schedule I drug.
That's like even like the USDA has described it as a breakthrough medicine.
In recent years, I think we said, there's been a renewed interest, in the research side of it, treating mental health conditions, PTSD. I think it was an organization that did some study with cigarette smoking, nicotine addiction, and they got rid of it. I can't remember.
I know they did a study with
look it up.
Ex-military.
Yes, so new studies been done recently. I had to look it up with cigarette addicts, and seems quite successful to me. But more than 50% of the people who did psilocybin therapy gave up their cigarette habit. That's half. And then organizations like MAPS, which is the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, they've been at the forefront of all this research, exploring how psychedelics like MDMA, psilocybin, have been used to treat these conditions, PTSD, depression, everything. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's something we should explore more? As a society, as far as medical usage? What's your personal opinion on it?
So. Psilocybin and LSD have helped me in many ways that I'm not going to fully get into everything here. But, I've had my pure experiences. I've had my pure experiences with peyote too. These drugs can be used for great things, just as, marijuana that we're now diving deeper into nowadays in most states. I think all states should open up to it, get some more research going, go back to the therapeutical studies of it, and see where it can take us.
What about, let's talk microdosing, this microdosing trend. People claim it's increased creativity, focus, and overall well-being with small regular doses of psychedelics. And when I say microdosing, I think the standard term, or whatever you want to call it, is it's about 1/10 of a normal dose. Yeah. Well, but what's a normal dose, right? I mean, everybody has, but either way, the whole thing is, does it actually, do you think it actually works, or is it a placebo? You're not supposed to feel like you would say getting high, right? But it's
Right.
more sub-perceptual is what they say.
Yes.
So you're not supposed to, you're not even supposed to realize you're taking it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just supposed to that's why it's microdosing. It's just a very small amount.
Yes.
So my wife has actually been trying that now for about a month, I want to say. And she says she can feel a difference. She can tell a difference, a clear difference.
So
I don't know.
My microdosing was we used to eat like a half a gram of mushrooms, like every other weekend. Eat it for one day. It wasn't really enough to make you hallucinate or anything like that. But the mind reset that it gave you afterwards was phenomenal. Stressful. It's 2 weeks at work. Friday night, kind of reset your mind for you completely. Kind of come out of it with a better view on life, is what I'd say. A lot more happier. All that depression, anxiety, and stress from work had kind of just floated away. And it was a really nice way to kind of reset and get back on track.
Interesting take. Levelers, have you all microdosed? I'd like to know if anybody microdoses or what your thoughts are on it. So you said you've done shrooms.
Yes.
Have you ever had MDMA?
Yes.
I have not. LSD tabs.
We used to party with that a lot.
But the thing is, though, there has never been one single report of a death of an overdose for too much shrooms or LSD. Not one.
No. Shrooms definitely not, because once your body produces too much of the psilocybin, you actually just throw it up. It's essentially just food poisoning. And then once your body regurgitates it, it's out of your system within an hour, and then your body's back to functioning normally.
Just like cannabis. Nobody's ever overdosed on cannabis.
LSD,
it's almost impossible.
LSD, I don't know if you can initially overdose on it, but you can tweak your mind far enough to not be able to fully come back from that.
Well, yeah, you can. Yeah,
you're talking
psychotic break work, but I'm talking a death, somebody that killed, overdosed and died by taking to it. There's never been a report ever.
No.
So, I'm sure everybody knows the name Terence McKenna, right? Everybody knows If you're involved in shrooms in any type of way, if you don't know Terence McKenna, we need to talk. But I think he said it best. His exact words, I think, were, mushrooms can make you feel like you're dying, but they can't kill you. Every trip is a journey, and you might feel like you're dying. Have you ever felt like you're dying on a trip?
Oh, yeah.
And even when you want to say just, the whole thing, what do they say? No matter how much research you do, like for anybody new that is thinking about it, we're not advocating for anyone to try psychedelics, but we believe in an open and honest conversations about them.
Yes.
It's about acknowledging the history, the potential risks, the benefits, empowering you, the levelers, to make your own informed decisions. But I haven't had a bad trip yet. And I don't want to. I'm not advocating. I don't want to. But I did feel like I was going to the first time, but then it went away instantly. So I can't say that I've ever felt like I was dying during a trip. You know what I mean? I haven't hit that yet, but I've never done any more than 3.5 grams. So I'm a baby.
I wouldn't really say that I've had any bad trips, but I've definitely eaten too much, definitely thrown up a bunch, and kind of ruined part of my life. But it does bounce back. It does bounce back indeed.
I do want to do the what Terence McKenna calls the heroic dose, which is the true form of heroic dose, according to Terence McKenna, is you have to do it alone, in complete darkness, with eye shades on, no music, no nothing. It's just complete darkness. That's his, and 5 grams. But that was according to his body weight, which, if I remember right, he's only like $150. So, 5 grams to him, and to me, might be like 6 or 7, right? I mean, it might be a little bit more. But so what I'm getting at here, though, is I've never done the heroic dose as per se as per Travis McKenna, but I do want to try. It's something I am wanting to try and do.
Yeah, see,
But yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of a big boy, but I've definitely eaten 10 grams one night on top of some other things to go along with those 10
God
grams.
damn, 10 grams.
And
You sound like Mike Tyson. Have you seen him on podcast?
yeah,
He was on a podcast with who was it? Maybe it was the Paul brothers again. Maybe because I always see them on podcasts, you know, and watch fighting. So I'm big in
Might have been.
combat sports, right? And he brought into their podcast a bag of fucking shrooms, dude. Like
Yep.
I'm talking a gallon Ziploc bag of, and I think he said they were golden teachers.
Yep.
And he said, "You all want to try them?" And he's like, "They're like, wait, right here, right now on the, you know, door." And he's like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, how do you?" He's like, "You just grab it," and he literally grabbed a handful, shoved them, and just started
Yes,
chewing them
sir.
up. And he's like, and he said, "You're gonna be chewing those for days," and he just chewed them up like it was nothing. So, but essentially, I think you know, if you ever like, for anybody, I don't know, if you ever have a big bag and you're just wanting to get, you don't have a scale or anything, you know. A decent sized handful is about 3.5 grams, right? You know,
Yeah.
a decent size. So
Give or take,
he
yeah.
probably had 5 grams right there in his hand because he had, I mean, a
Bear
fucking
balls,
ball
too.
of them. You know what I mean? I don't know if you saw that in a bit.
I
So
think
I've never
I think
had
I know
it,
what
but
you're
10
talking about.
grams is Jesus Christ. I just can't think. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I was very known for my mushrooms at fire spinning festivals.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The first time I ever tried any type of psychedelic mushroom, you know, anything was back in like the 90s, dude. I lived in Ohio and I was we were at a farm, right? And I took my shit. I ate some shrooms and I took a little tab of LSD, right? Ate some shrooms. I was talking to the cow that night. And like the problem with me was I was so fucking thirsty the whole time, and that was the LSD. Really, I mean, I think I went through a gallon, but then after I got through that whole gallon of water, like a gallon jug, that jug started talking to me. Like you just killed me. Like wild experience. So whatever I'm going with this is that was one of the only times I had actually ever done anything like that.
Okay.
And I did not touch shrooms again until a couple years ago, and my first trip coming back into shroom world, you know, it was, you know, everybody says go into it with a reason, right? If you're going to go in, like trying to do it for an experience, to go in to try it, you know, and think something. Right. And man, I took my first, I did that first time. And I was sitting out by the pool. Actually, I was sitting inside watching a football game. It was a Saturday. College football was on. And I was like, man, I'm not feeling anything, right? And I did the lemon teak method or whatever. Put in lemon juice, you know, grind it up, and then fucking down the hatch, right? And they say it's supposed to work. An hour and a half went by, dude, and I'm like, nah, ain't nothing going on. I'm watching the football game, and it don't seem like anything's any different, right? And I'm sitting there waiting for something to happen. And that was probably part of my reason that I wasn't feeling things, because I was waiting for something to happen because I hadn't done it. So I finally just said, fuck it. And I went outside. My wife was in the pool. I went outside, and I laid down on our little patio bed we have out there. Dude, that's when it hit me. Fucking everything was so vibrant and colorful. And I think I stared and watched these birds flying around. Like I felt like I was just flying around the sky and stuff. And then, and then I remember it. It wasn't like I was completely out of it, because I remember everything I've done on, you know, it's not like I black out and don't remember everything, but like, I don't remember certain things that were, what percepted or, you know, came to your mind and vision, but things that I physically did, I remember. And I remember I had to get, like, first I started feeling like the texture of our day bed. Like, I don't know if it felt so different. Like, I know everybody's probably thinking, if you've never done, like, what the fuck is he saying? But it's normal. It's completely normal. It's a sensation. But what happened was I started feeling like I was becoming one with the earth, right? Like it was all becoming one. And I ended up getting in the grass and like doing snow angel type shit. Like just being like, just enjoy it. Like I was laughing and smiling. My wife watching me like, you are. I'm like, I am great. And I was like, then, you know, you know how certain things happen. They'll kind of bring you out of your trip for a second. Yeah. I hit some dog doo-doo. And that's what I was like, well, can't lay on the ground anymore. You know what I fucking mean? Carrying dog doo-doo. And I don't want to. So I got back on the bed. But that was the last time. Yeah, that was the first time back. It was fun. It was, needless to say. But it was one of the, like once I think it was I was so like ready for it to happen, it wasn't
Right,
happening,
right.
and finally when I was like, fuck it, let go, like then it all
Smacked
happened.
you.
Or it was just me stepping outside in that sun and the heat, and that just took over everything. Right, it took over all the sensation. It's hard to explain, but if you've never done it, it's hard to explain. But it's definitely I like it, man. I love shrooms.
Yeah, I don't really mess with like too much other stuff anymore, like LSD or DMT or anything like that. But still,
I don't do none of that.
Still get some shrooms in my days here.
Dude, I'm a if I can grow it, I'll take it.
There you go.
That's where if I can grow it, I'll take it.
Did I tell you?
I can grow shrooms. I can grow weed. I have never grown shrooms. I want to. I want to learn, but it's fucking illegal. But
that's next on my bucket list to do.
But I know for a fact there's millions of people growing them right now all around me, and because you can buy them pretty much anyway. It's not like it's nobody's hiding it. Everybody's
true.
Dude, I get Facebook ads, shroom shit, right? Shroom like
all the time.
Come on,
Facebook, TikTok.
Nobody's hiding the shit.
No.
TikTok. I ain't trying to go off a rant, but you hear about that?
Yeah, I don't know what's
this fucking TikTok ban. What is that? I'm not even about like I don't even I'm not a TikToker.
So they're not even quite sure what's going to happen. The first, let's say the first step to trying them trying to get it banned, the votes have gone through on it, but it's got to go through multiple steps, just like everything else has got to go through Congress.
Yeah, so it's gone through the House. Let's go hit the Senate.
Yeah. So the first set of votes went through. That they want to pass the bill.
But essentially, what I'm gathering is it's not like a ban, like it's going to be deleted off all your phones the minute it passes. It's like they have some time to. But what I don't get, you're forcing them to sell it. That's the whole bill.
Yeah,
they have to sell the company, or it gets banned.
Yes.
How can you force another country to sell something that they created?
So what's going to happen is because of how many American businesses are profiting off of an overseas app right now, America's not making their money off of it.
They're not getting their taxes, yeah.
Right, and America's greedy.
Of course.
So that's what it all boils down to right there is the fucking dollars
just
that
like
they want in their pockets.
And once they figure out how to tax it, just like the marijuana, they'll figure it out. It'll start becoming legal here and here and here. And next thing you know, it's not Schedule 1 anymore because the government's making a shit ton of money off of it.
As long as Mr. Big Balls, Timmy, and Jimmy can put a couple dollars in their pocket, that's all that matters to them.
Hey, yeah, of course, But yeah, man, I'll tell you, my experience with them has been great. Like I said, I don't do the LSD, the DMT, MDMA. I don't do anything synthetic anymore whatsoever. Back in my day, man, I did it all. Right, I've tried almost every fucking thing under the sun besides needles. I nothing involving anything like that. I mean, but I've done the whole acid. I've done pretty much everything you can think of that you can just ingest or take. Right, but again, not advocating for it, but things that come out of the earth, man, that are natural fucking healing abilities, and we're banning them everywhere and making them Schedule 1 drug. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it does, but I don't want it to make sense.
This may sound stupid, but peyote saved my life.
You want to share that experience? I don't know.
Yeah, dude. So I've
never had peyote. I've heard of it, and I'd love to try it. Like, in one of those, if I could get whatever, but like DMT, I'd love to try DMT, but
I was in a very safe environment taking it. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to drop any names or anything like that.
No, you're good. It just wasn't. You weren't in a retreat.
I was very good.
Right? It was just your own personal experience.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay. Either way, you took.
Anyway, so
you fucking took some.
I was going through a really, really bad time in life. Tried to take my own life.
Oh damn.
Not long before that, had some drug problems. Heavy drug problems going on. And a friend of mine came to me and was like, "Hey man, I got this buddy. He's really good with peyote. I think you should try to take a little experience and see if you can bring yourself out of that." And 2 days before I went out to where I was going, I had tried to harm myself due to the severe depression that I was going through.
You might have I don't mean to interrupt you, but it would. You might have, how old were you at this time? Around what age? Were you in your 20s? Were you?
Yeah, I want to say it was like 23.
Okay. So about 10 years
So
ago.
about 10 years ago, about
Okay.
10, 11 years ago, yeah. I'm not going to go into, crazy details of whatever happened. But anyway, so my friends packed me up. They pretty much dragged me out of the house. I didn't really have a choice. They literally packed a bag for me and drugged me out of my house.
So you could say they saved your life.
Yeah, they had half of it, yes. Half of it indeed. But anyway, fast forward. So we take the stuff, we're doing the whole ritual thing about it. And then about halfway through my experience, I envisioned myself on this dock out in front of a lake. And I'm in a box. And walls of the box are playing videos of my life that have been in the past. And these walls in these boxes are down around me as it's going through like levels of my life. And then I get to a sector to where like
a fucking video game.
Like a fucking video game, dude. It was insane. Like I was just in like a 3-dimensional cube, and it was just closing down around me, and all these like experiences are going by and everything like that. I'm watching everything.
And you're
talking
everything real experience, like literal things that happen in your life.
Yes, the shit that I went through in life. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. So then I'm sitting there, and then everything goes white, like bright white, and then it starts to like play by like I guess like a future of like what would happen if I went down the same road, and like all the people that I would hurt if I like took my life. And it was just like a play-by-play of like people around me and like loved ones and everything like that. And then out of nowhere, all the walls close at once, and then it opens up, and we're sitting out on the rocks in the desert as the sunset's coming up. And I just felt
Wait, literally? Amazing. You were in the desert?
Literally, yes.
Oh, shit.
We were in the desert.
I thought you meant like still in your...
No. We were actually in the desert. We were sitting on top of these rocks out in the desert.
You woke up to that
yes.
Brand new fucking day, bro.
All the boxes went away, and everything, just the sunlight was coming up, and dude, it was such an amazing experience.
Like a brand new fucking day. Like
a brand new life.
Like a whole life's ahead of me. Like,
it was like my whole life restarted over.
So people that you thought... So you in your mind thought, ain't nobody gonna miss me. Ain't nobody give a fuck if I'm gone. And that showed you that's not true. And everybody needs to understand that. You might think, no matter if you have, you might think nobody's going to care, but it will affect everybody around
anybody,
you. I promise
everybody.
You. I have lost friends to that, and I know many of us have.
Yes.
I'm getting a little teary-eyed just thinking about it. Bro. And just thinking of your story, like that's just wild. But I actually want to ask you something about, like, so I've never done peyote, but like, how is the come up? Like, how does it come up on that?
I threw up a lot. It's the same thing with ayahuasca. You get very, very sick to your stomach, sweating, shitting yourself.
So, like shrooms. So, for people who don't know, so shrooms too, you can get nausea on the come up. So, I want to say most people, if you ingest it, about 45 minutes into it, it's usually when you get that nauseous feeling for mushrooms. So, it's similar. It's the same thing
but on steroids.
Holy shit. Yeah, see, I've been fortunate not to. The nauseous has been very limited for me, but... So you were throwing up a lot, and then what happened? Like, so you knew what was going on around you? You were just throwing up.
Yeah. I was very ill.
How did you end up realizing you weren't in your own body? You know, I won't say your own body, but essentially, it's what it's not. You know, you're in this whole other universe, this whole other realm. I guess
like after all the nausea and the sickness went away. They had fans out there, and they were like fanning me off and everything like that because I was just profusely sweating.
And I see a lot of people do that. It's normal. That's a normal thing for people to get hot.
It's completely normal for it to happen.
A lot of people do it in a sweat box, right? If you go to some of these other countries and do these retreats,
they'll do it in the shacks.
Yeah, you go in these hot boxes. So
with
you got
steamers going on and shit.
Yeah, so you got them fanning you.
It's to get all the negative out of you, quote unquote. So they're fanning me down, and then I'm finally cooling down, and then once my body kind of relaxed and cooled down, that's when everything just kind of.
So, like, did you just like kind of close your eyes, and it just all of a sudden you were picturing stuff? So
yes,
and that's sort of how it happens with shrooms, right? I mean, you sit there.
The same thing with like DMT too.
You start feeling a little off, right? You know, and I'm not going to go into the nausea part because I'm talking about just in general. You start feeling a little off, and then. When you let go, it's really that's the word. I hate to even do it because that's just so vague. But when you let go, that's when it happens, and it's just like, and it can happen just like that. Like all of a sudden, you're seeing something. You're like, wait, where am I? As
soon as you stop fighting it, the very second that you stop fighting it, is when it happens.
Yep.
But I also always feel like it happens at the perfect moment. If that makes sense to anybody out there.
So, how long is a peyote trip?
I think I was in it for about 6.5 hours. I'm gonna say.
So it's longer than shrooms.
Yes,
Shrooms, I think,
but
are
not as
4
long
to
as
6,
LSD.
4 to 5 for the most part.
Yeah.
4 to 5 hours, depending on how much you took. A lot of things.
LSD is like anywhere from like 6 to 12 hours. DMT is very short.
Right,
Very
and that's
short-lived.
that's like 15 minutes, right? Like
Yeah,
something
and
like
that is a
really short.
very, very crazy experience in the
But
matter of short
so
time.
you said you've done DMT. You're not
DMT
hiding
too,
that.
yeah.
So I'm going to ask you some questions because I've never done DMT, but I've wanted to try it. Now they are starting to use that for research and stuff too,
Yes.
for things. But I listen to Joe Rogan a lot, and Joe Rogan is a fucking advocate for DMT. I don't know if you listen to Joe Rogan. If anybody listens to Joe, he's an advocate for it, and they talk about. Do you know anything about these DMT elves?
No.
Have you ever had that happen?
No,
Do you know what I'm talking about? Like these, they
I've
say
heard
that like
about
these
them.
entities that you run into.
Yeah. So I have the one thing about DMT is I've never fully blasted off on DMT. I've had some experiences, some light experiences.
So you've never seen the DMT god that everybody
No.
says they see on those
No, I have
strong,
not, nope.
like on those big doses.
I've
Do you see
tried.
geometric patterns? That's a big
Yes.
thing they say.
Yes.
So that is like the kaleidoscope of.
Yes, the whole sky looked like a kaleidoscope to me.
That's awesome. I mean, people that don't know what it's called, I mean, it's hard to explain, but
It is.
I mean, it's just. But yeah, they say, and DMT is you smoke that, right?
Yes,
DMT?
yes, you do. Yep.
And that's what they say. I think Joey says it's just a short 10 to 15 minutes, and dude, it's like gone. It's like, do you remember Whippets? Does anybody remember Whippets?
Oh my god,
that was like the shortest fucking thing ever, right? We used to buy that shit at a
last you 30 seconds.
Dude, when I was 18, 19, whatever it was, 21, 20, I don't even fucking remember. The only place you could buy the Whippet cartridges, right, or anything back then was we had a lot of porn shops, adult stores. That's where you could buy them at. You bought the crackers, that you cracked them open, and then see nowadays these kids, all you people do these shit. Now you have these little fucking cans. You don't even have to do anything. You just you got it. They ain't, back then that wasn't the case. You had to literally almost fucking freeze your hand off sometimes to get that 10 seconds of fucking rush. But bro, those were wild at the time. Whippets were crazy.
Dude, we had one time we went to a festival and we had a buddy of ours was in the medical field, let's just put it that way, and we got a hold of a whole tank of nitrous, and yeah, that was a fun weekend. A lot of brain cells lost that weekend,
or gained,
or gained maybe.
You might learn from that experience.
That was a crazy festival that weekend.
So what else you got, man, for the levelers out there right now? What do we got? What else we got for them on psychedelics in the realm of psychedelics?
I mean, so even today, like Maryland, actually, Johns Hopkins is currently doing psilocybin research.
Really? So Johns Hopkins Hospital, everybody knows Johns Hopkins now.
Yep. Johns Hopkins is doing it for cluster headaches, anxiety, OCD, depression associated with Alzheimer's, anorexia, addiction still, and major depressive disorders. They're still doing research to this day. And like clinical trials are showing that like 1 or 2 doses of psilocybin is given in a therapeutic setting once a year, usually once or twice a year, can make a dramatic and long lasting change in people that SSRIs, whatever it's selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, that they're not able to do over even the time of 6 months of being in your system. So they're trying to kind of wean that
you're doing
in.
something. You're taking something, a synthetic fucking drug, and trying to go almost half a year to a year with it for something that a psilocybin treatment in 4 to 5 hours,
something natural.
They came out of the fucking poop. I mean,
Yes,
seriously, look, for anybody who doesn't know, that people are there's not any psilocybin mushrooms that grow without dung. There's just not.
It can be grown in.
But yeah, so people say it comes from shit. It literally does. They do come from shit. I mean, it's it has to be dung. Now there are some wood loving mycology. So I don't want to say it. I'll wait. We're going to do another episode on mushrooms and maybe talk some growing and maybe how people could get into that if it's legal in your area.
Cool.
I mean, I don't know anything about it. The one I was saying that was I was actually looking. One of the trips that I was looking at was Tulum. You ever heard of Tulum, Mexico?
Yes. Yep.
There's an ayahuasca retreat, and it's
Yes.
5 days, and it's all included. Like everything's included for the trip. And dude, they're like $1,300. It's not much, you know. And a flight to Mexico's $200, $300. You know, they're not much. So I've looked into a couple of them, thinking about maybe in the future, not anytime now, you know, but maybe future time, maybe doing something like that, seeing what it's like. I would be interested in the what's that fucking frog venom, the toad stuff.
Oh, fucking
You know what I'm talking about? They say that is
shit.
something wild.
Fuck, dude, what's the word for it? Hold on.
Look it up, producer me. I'm gonna clean my beard up.
5-MeO-DMT.
So that's like it's like a stronger version of what DMT.
Bufo alvarius.
But what do they call it though? What is
scientific?
What's the word for it that they call it? Is it just toad venom or something?
Yeah, toad venom or Bufo alvarius. That's like the scientific term for it. The native frog is the Bufo alvarius, and it's the venom from that. So it's the 5-MeO-DMT. So I've had 5-Echo-DMT, which the echo is a synthetic form of the frog venom. I've had that in a capsule form before. It was not a very good experience. I do not like the syntheticness that they put into it. I think it was way too strong.
So there is a so at these retreats, like at ayahuasca retreat, almost every. So I've looked into almost all of them everywhere, like around South America and Mexico, and you could almost every single one of them. All of it includes your ayahuasca ceremony, right?
Right.
But you can add on psilocybin, the toad venom. You can add on all that, and I'm sure theirs is 100% natural. I mean, it's not going to be, you know, and it's not much to add it on. Like you can do the toad venom ceremony, whatever, and it's like $30 to add that, you know, something like that on, and you know, different things. But this retreat, man, they say it's just one of the it's a whole wellness thing. It's not like something you don't just go to get high. It's not going to get high. It's a, you know, you just go and just
you will leave that experience a changed fucking human.
Yeah, and I mean,
you will.
One dose of psilocybin could change you. I mean, not even just going to a retreat. A retreat's more intense, a lot more intense, and you know.
You got some issues that you want to work out? Go to that retreat.
And I'm not talking about the 1-day retreat. I'm not talking about the ones where you can just go up and like, hey, I want to do this. You know, a true ayahuasca thing. They say you have to stay overnight. You know, it's like a whole ceremony, and you need to. And a lot of those places say they want you to be there. You know, you lead up to it, so you arrive, and you don't do it that day. You get your mind and body right for the first couple of days, then you do it, and then you have those 2 days to come down.
They'll do a lot of like yoga and everything with you in preparation for getting ready for it and everything like that. Help you clean your mind, your body,
everything
and your soul,
they feed you is clean, all clean eating, all clean everything. So it's interesting. I mean, it's definitely something I want to experience at least once a month.
You want what's going in you to be clean because it ain't coming out clean. No, it is a great experience. You know, I'm not gonna endorse anybody to go do it, but if anybody's wanting to, I will
look into it. Do your research.
It's been a really good experience for me personally, and I know many others that has helped. And have at it.
I'll tell you, I know for 100% fact that shrooms have changed quite a few people I know's lives just by taking them one time.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to say this, and we'll get close to closing this episode out because we're already going here, but don't wait. So when you go into, if you decide, if you have taken, you're probably going to understand here what I'm saying, but whatever you think you're going to go in and get out of this is probably not what you're going to get. You're going to get whatever it gives you.
Yeah, you're going to get what it wants to give you.
You can go in, and don't get me wrong. They say to go in, with a reason, something for a reason. If you're wanting to go on have an experience, a reason. But if you don't have it, don't get upset because it's going to teach you something. What you need to be taught, not always what you want to hear, what you want to know. And that's what people have, where people say they have the bad trips. They have it, but it's because of something in their mind and body that's holding them back or doing whatever. Yes. And then once they break through that bad part of the trip, everything's different.
Then so it's all beautiful skies after that.
So, levelers, whether you are a seasoned psychonaut or simply curious about the fascinating topic, I hope we've provided some valuable insights, sparked further exploration and conversations between you all. And if, with us, if you want to reach out, remember, I always say knowledge is power, and responsible use of information, it is just as important as responsible use of the substance. So,
agreed.
Any last thoughts, Brian, before we close out?
No, I think I'll give him my fair share here. All
right. Well, you heard it, levelers. We talked a good bit about it. We're going on almost an hour here, but it's definitely we honestly. I mean, we can every single one of these things we could talk about into more detail. We can go down a rabbit hole of psilocybin, a rabbit hole of DMT, a rabbit hole of LSD. We can do all that, but I do want to go down that rabbit hole with psilocybin in particular, just because I know a lot of levelers and a lot of are more interested in that particular psychedelic. Right. So I want to do another episode. I have been talking with somebody. This gentleman, I think. You might not know him personally, but you know who he is.
Don't know him personally, but yeah,
I've talked with him. He's interested in doing it. Maybe it's something, I don't know where he's actually located. Maybe we could all meet up. Maybe we could all meet up sometime. Maybe shoot an episode local. Either way, we want to get him, and we'll dive into the rabbit hole with psilocybin growing, what it can be used for, treatment, everything about it. Like we'll just go into some more. That's a whole episode in itself. It might even have to be a fucking two-part episode. But with that, as always, hit us up on social media at HLC Podcast 420. Let us know what topics you want to hear, what you would like to hear from, what topics you want us to touch more on, any new topics you want to touch on. I think our next episode, we need to do a video game special. We need to really get into some video games. We've been talking a lot about some, a lot more on the cannabis and side of it. So let's go into the video games. I will say I do have, I guess some. Did we break this news last week, or did we do it? You're back on COD.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know if we broke that news or not. But I'm back on COD. Yeah.
You are back on COD with your name, your original account.
My original account.
You've been playing some of that, so we'll get into this. I want to do some more video game stuff, but anyways, levelers, as always, stay leveled up. We are out.
Thanks for listening to High Level Chronicles. See you next time.
Thank you again for listening to High Level Chronicles. Please help us grow by leaving us a review wherever you listen to us at, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, Alexa. Your reviews will help our show grow and help us reach a broader audience. Also, we are always looking for new show sponsors, so please reach out if you're interested. You can hit us on our social media or email us info@highlevelchronicles.com. Thanks again for listening.